you ready? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting for October 15th. Please stand and join us in the pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, on tonight's agenda, the board was in executive session at 6:30 under Mass General Law, Chapter 214, Section 1B, Mass General Law, Chapter 4, Section 7, Clause 26C. We will review meeting minutes from last meeting. We have Representative David Meridian here with us tonight. We are going to discuss the executive and execute the special town meeting warrant. We have an appointment to consider for the Open Space Committee. We have a motion to authorize the town manager to execute the Upton Ridge General Agreement transfer. We have also an agenda item to accept a donation, motion to declare various town equipment items surplus, a motion to approve PP and PM updated definitions. This is in regard to Upton Ridge and the water and sewer service. Motion to approve plowing private ways, recognition, and town manager's report, and public comment. So, quite a few items on there. We'll start with reviewing the meeting and agenda meeting minutes. That was executive session and regular session meeting minutes.
I make a motion to approve the executive session and open meeting minutes from 10/1/2019.
Second.
Make that unanimous action. Okay. And for invited guests tonight, we have our state rep, David Meridian. Good evening. I just saw David. I had the pleasure of speaking with him before the concert downstairs, I should say.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, board members. First off, that was a wonderful concert. I want to thank the Post down the street and obviously the Cultural Council for that. I think it's wonderful that we're actually using the hall for its intended purpose and what it used to be for, and I hope that we can certainly continue that in the future. So it was awesome to be here. It was also wonderful to go and attend this past weekend with the fire and EMS hazmat training. So I was able to stop by the station for a little bit and just see what they're doing. And it's wonderful to know that we're in such good hands and such capable hands for all the men and women who are there. So it was fascinating training to see what goes into at least even the scrub downs and the washouts when you get out of the situation and how you're not quite out of it until you're fully out of all of your fatigues and things like that. A couple of things I just wanted to chat with you about quickly, because obviously it's a robust agenda that I hear, Mr. Chairman, and I was so kindly reminded that I should probably mention I'm going to be doing my annual coat drive again this year. So bundle up to Blackstone Valley. It's a coat drive to benefit everyone. We don't quite have the date yet, but it'll probably be in Grafton again. That seems to be the easiest location, the more centralized location. We're accepting new and gently used washed coats, men, women, and children. And what we do is we collect them, we bag them up that night with help from my friends from Upton from 4-H. They're always there and so supportive, and then we distribute them throughout the community, mostly to all of our schools that certainly have a need for them. The DCF office in Northridge, and they certainly take them as well. So we will be doing it again. I'll be sure to get the town the information. I know the town's been wonderful in partnering with us with putting a box up. So if that's something you might consider again, I really, really appreciate that. It's been very successful in terms of the amount of donations. I recently went to all the superintendents within my district, and I wanted to sit with them, talk to them about the education bill that we have before the legislature. So you might be familiar with it because we've been talking about reform of it for years and years, given the Foundation Budget Review Commission and their findings. So it took the Education Committee quite a bit of time to come up with a bill, and it's a comprehensive bill. But the highlights are it's a 7-year, $1.5 billion investment. A wonderful thing with that is it does not rely on any additional taxes. We think that we can fund it through additional gains and revenues. As you may know, we do have a wonderful year so far in terms of tax returns and receipts, so hopefully that continues. But while 1.5 billion sounds wonderful, I want to break it down so that we know potentially how it would affect Mendon Upton. You may have seen the Boston Globe article that called out Peabody and Grafton as two communities that are quite a bit different, but it's related to Grafton that it wouldn't really help them out all that much, to be honest with you. I've told this board, and I've told the school committees I've sat in front of that whenever a formula changes, there are people who benefit greatly, and there are communities that would not benefit. So we're kind of in that middle where we're too good to be bad, but we're not too good to be self-sustaining. And it's a tough spot to be. So there were numbers that came out, and I do want to apologize to the town manager. Typically I do send everything, as soon as we get to the town manager and to the superintendents, it was embargoed. That's why I didn't send you anything, but I know that someone shared the information with the Superintendent Association, so they did get it. I'm sure through the grapevine you've gotten it, so there was no disrespect. I was just trying to obey the rules. So basically when you look at it, it broke it down from FY20 to 27, the 7-year rollout, and this is based off of the administration's interpretation of the Senate bill. Okay, so the Senate bill is 2350. So look at the numbers right now. Foundation budget for Mendon Upton is $22,449,447. Required local contribution for us is $15,888,903. The required local contribution as a percentage of the foundation right now is 70.78%. Chapter 70 received $12,448,756. And the percentage of Chapter 70 of the foundation is 55.45%. That's where we're at now. Assuming that this bill goes into law as it's currently drafted just with what passed the Senate, the administration's understanding of it is that the foundation budget for Mendon Upton would be $28,850,523. The required local contribution would be $23,059,926. The required local contribution as a percentage of the foundation would then be 79.93%. Chapter 70 would be $12,910,966. And Chapter 70 as a percentage of the foundation would be 44.75%. Now, I threw a whole bunch of numbers at you. I can certainly give you those if you'd like. But what it breaks down to is the foundation budget would go up $6.4 million from Mendon Upton. Required local contribution goes up a little over $7 million. Required local contribution as a percentage of the foundation would actually grow by 9.15%. And Chapter 70 would go up $462,000 and some odd dollars. The tough thing with those numbers, I just read the last numbers to you, when they came out, when they were released from the administration, just the legislature, was I don't know where they got the numbers from. I don't know where the Senate even got their numbers from, because there's no guidelines to it. I don't know if it took into account enrollment, if it kept it a steady enrollment. I don't know if it was declining, an increase. I don't know about special education costs. Both enrollment and special education are assumed costs. Those can vary greatly from year to year. Inflation, I don't know if it included inflation in that number. So there's a ton of almost guessing that we have to do when we go into this bill right now. When the Senate took it up, my understanding is that the chair of education on the Senate showed every member how it would benefit their district. However, the chair of education did not release those numbers, so that's all hearsay from what I've got over there. I'm hoping on the House side, our chair will provide us the information, or at least their understanding and their best guess to it. Because right now, $1.5 billion is a wonderful investment in education, but if I can't sit here and target how it's going to help us out, I'm hard pressed to support it. I want real figures and to know. And I understand some of it's estimated, but I'd like to know these things. When I sat with the superintendents, one of the things that we all discussed and we're all very supportive of is the fact that special education transportation reimbursements now will be included in the formula. So where the Chapter 70 number for communities like ours, which are kind of smack dab in the middle, where the Chapter 70 number is not going to grow by Brockton. I have Brockton's numbers right here. Now, there are socioeconomic reasons why we certainly don't want to be Brockton, especially with the amount of help that they're going to be getting and aid from the legislature. I mean, their Chapter 70 in FY27 is going to be $326 million. It's going to grow $140 million over those 7 years. So this bill is engineered to greatly help ELL communities and low-income communities, which I will be the first to say we need to certainly fund those. However, I want to make sure that there's a significant investment to all communities so we can have a fair and equitable formula. So I will get the town manager and the superintendent the most up-to-date information as soon as we get it from the House. I can assure you of that, if and when we do get it released to us. But with that being said, I wanted to give you a little heads up as to what we're doing, let you know I'm trying to do my homework the best I can when it comes to this monumental bill, but I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'd love to know how I can continue to help you all in the future.
All right. Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you for all the hard work you do.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I think for last year, I think for last year's school budget, was there some additional monies that were funded to the district and the regional school as well, regional vocational school?
Yep, so we were able to go above and beyond with some of the figures. I don't have them currently in front of me. I would want to quote them without being accurate with them, but we've been successful with achieving more funding in terms of regional school transportation costs, sped reimbursement per pupil, and then obviously local earmarks as well. So I think it tries to make everyone's job a little bit easier if we can get more money in your coffers, and then you can choose what to do with it.
Right. Do you have anything?
Yeah, just a question on the timing of the House review for the bill.
Yep, I believe that we will be taking it up next week. So, and I should say this, I do anticipate filing at least one amendment. Right now we have $30 per pupil, and I've been supportive of amendments that would go all the way up to $100 per pupil. So what I'm going to do to try to be practical with it all is not establish a ceiling, but rather a floor, saying that moving forward, we're starting at 30, and we grow at least $5 every year for the 7-year rollout. I know it's not going to be a windfall and a coup, but it's additional dollars that I think we could certainly use. So I'm trying to be practical with it and try to grow it that way.
Great. Anybody have anything else? Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you coming in. Always nice to see you. Perfect.
I asked the gentleman if he could comment on transportation, because that's a killer, especially in the regional school districts. Again, years and years ago, the carrot they dangled to regionalize was 100% reimbursement for transportation, and I think they'll right now about 34%, 36%, somewhere in there.
A little bit better, but we're not where we should be. You know, and one of the things that just came up today was a hearing about basically a congestion tax, where they would want the sponsors of the legislation would propose that individuals who drive during peak hours get taxed more on driving on the road. So to me, that's just a tax that hurts us. It hurts everyone from central Massachusetts, it hurts everyone from western Massachusetts. It doesn't hurt the big city because they're already where they need to be. So that's something I wouldn't be supportive of. But there is a transportation bond bill that should be coming down the pipeline that will hopefully try to address some of these concerns. I'm always pushing for the regional school transportation, try to get it fully funded, things of that nature. And I should say, very recently I was contacted by an individual from town. He's got some visual impairments. He raised some concerns with a portion of the road out here with some of the sidewalks. So I have DOT coming out within the next week or so, see what we can do to try to spruce up the sidewalks so that he can have a safe walk and enjoy our community the way we all do.
Thank you. Great.
agenda item we have is item 5.1, discuss and execute the special town meeting warrant. So before I ask if there's any articles to be reconsidered, Capital Finance and FinCom met, and one of the articles thought was interesting was unfavorable action on it. So if I could just get a quick comment from Capital Budget and a quick comment from FinCom. I think both chairs are here. Mr. Ladas, would you like to go first?
Sure. Capital budget with warrant Article 2C. We voted unfavorable in support of that, so we did not recommend that. The committee really talked more about what's in our capital plan, and it's not in the capital plan. We also talked about priorities in terms of how it fits in with everything that's going on in the community, passive and active recreation needs, balancing all those needs, and also have discussions on other community priorities. So after much robust discussion, the manager was with us and gave us some feedback and background on several things. We voted unfavorable. All the rest of the items we voted favorable.
Very good. And Mr. Flaherty?
Which one are you talking about specifically?
2C and
2C, no, the Finance Committee, it was a split vote, it was a majority vote not to support the Article 2C. There was several reasons, some of them Dan just alluded to. And, we just didn't think it was financially feasible to do it. Now, I'll make a note here that years ago, when the CPC first came out, the Finance Committee didn't take a position on it because the CPC statute indicates that it only requires an approval from the Community Preservation Committee. Well, some years after that, the manager went back to the town bylaw, which says that any appropriation requiring a financial appropriation has to have an opinion from the Finance Committee. So at that point, at 6 of one, half a dozen the other, I understand the moderator's position, but statutorily on the Community Preservation Act, I'm wondering if it may not be wise to just modify the bylaw regarding the Finance Committee to change it that it makes a position on anything except a Community Preservation Act appropriation. But that's just, here and there going forward.
very good. Thank you, gentlemen. All right. Now, we went over the warrant in very thorough detail. Is there any particular warrant articles or items that would need further discussion, or anybody would like to reopen?
So I want to reconsider, or make a motion to reconsider Article 17, which is to allow the voters to vote in town meeting on up and joining the Central Mass Mosquito Control Project. And this was a article we had significant discussion on at the last meeting, both amongst ourselves and with the folks from the community. I don't think we need to go through and have that conversation again. Suffice it to say, I met individually with folks on the Board of Health and talked with other folks that have been selectmen in this town previously. Also spoke with officials from other towns, people that I know in other surrounding towns, about the fact that the Board of Selectmen voted to not include a Board of Health article on the town warrant, and it was apparently unprecedented. People have been in local government for decades, and I mentioned this to them, and they said that they had never heard of a Board of Selectmen not approving a Board of Health proposed warrant article. That certainly wasn't our intent. I think we were basing our vote on the fact that town meeting had voted on this in the past. But I think the fact of the matter is that it's we certainly didn't want to, or certainly wasn't my intent anyway, to do something that was unprecedented or to undercut the authority of the elected officials that serve on the Board of Health. So with all of that feedback, you've got a new board here. I've been doing this for just about 18 months, so I've got a lot to learn. I'm still learning. This was, frankly, from my perspective, more of an oversight. I just didn't know what I didn't know. But given all of that history and context, I would make a motion that we include Article 17 in the special town warrant.
Okay. I guess my only other thoughts, we can either put this on the warrant this year, or from what I understand, and hopefully I can get clarification, my friend is here from the Board of Health, this is to amend the budget for 21. This is to join Central Mass Mosquito Organization for fiscal 21, not fiscal 20, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
Yeah. So it goes into the budget. Right. Yes.
Right. So, my only thoughts were we could also bring this forward in May, where, we typically examine the budget to a greater degree, but certainly, if this has never happened before, and it's always precedent to bring forward a Board of Health request, I don't think it would be appropriate then for me to hold back on that. So, if you want to make that motion again, we'll vote.
I move that we include Article 17 in the special town meeting warrant.
Second.
Want to make that unanimous action?
Wait. Sorry. I'm confused. Can I say something to this before you? I'm totally. Is it okay if I?
You can, if you'd like to ask a question of the board, yes, you
Yeah,
may.
I would like to
Yeah.
ask, has any of you consulted with town council? Is this the right way? Just because other cities or towns never heard of it and never did this, doesn't mean it's necessarily the right way.
This is procedural as far as how we craft the warrant. So these articles were brought forward to the warrant. The warrant isn't actually finalized until this evening. So, last meeting that we had, we discussed the articles, and final numbers, final decisions regarding the warrant can be made at this point in time. So this is really the last opportunity that we have to, change and modify the warrant.
And I would just say, specific to your question, I certainly didn't consult with town council. I only use town council for matters that we have a legal question about. So because this is procedural, I personally didn't need to hear from town council because it's just procedural. So it's within our jurisdiction to include or not include warrant articles on the town meeting warrant. That's the role of the executive branch of government. So I didn't need to consult with town council on something like this.
Do we have that information? Shouldn't there be like some regulation or something in writing? These are the procedures? I need a base here. I need something that supports what you're saying, because now I have to trust we're right this time. Maybe we were right last time. So some people say this, others say that. What is it based on? Are we doing the right thing? Procedurally the right thing?
The procedure is part of it, and what we're doing is procedurally correct. Ultimately, the decision, as it has been done in the past, and I don't agree with it, I don't support the article,
Right.
but it's not right for me to keep the article back.
Right.
So there's kind of two issues
No,
there.
I understand that, but what I'm asking is, maybe I didn't make myself clear, but to get right to the point, where is the procedure? Shouldn't it be somewhere in writing?
The procedure for the Board of Selectmen managing a town warrant is common practice in all jurisdictions in Massachusetts. I think it's a state law around how boards of selectmen create warrant articles to be voted on at town meeting. It's a state law.
Where's that state law? Where can I find it?
You can probably Google it, or yeah. So you
So
can talk
last
to the
time
town
that was-
manager offline and he can point you to those.
Okay, so
laws.
last time it was a mistake then, or?
It wasn't a mistake. What we-
Procedural
what-
mistake?
It wasn't a procedural mistake. What we're allowed to do as a board is discuss warrant articles,
Okay.
discuss whether we want to include them or not on the town meeting warrant. So we discussed it at the last town meeting. We took a vote. We voted to not include it on the warrant.
Mhm.
We haven't closed the warrant. Today, we're going to execute the warrant, which is we're closing the warrant. So after today, we won't have the ability to add or change the nature of these warrant articles. But up until we close the warrant, the town meeting warrant, we have the ability, are you seeing it? No. We have the ability to make changes and modifications. So the motion I made tonight was to reconsider the decision we made at the last meeting about including Article 17. So we discussed that. I explained the rationale for including it, and essentially, we, both Steve and I, changed our votes from the last meeting, where we voted against including this in the warrant article, to vote for including it in the warrant article, in the town meeting warrant. Does that answer your question?
Trying to sort it out right now.
Okay. Well, we can talk about it offline, or you can talk to the town manager, sort of what the bylaws are, what the laws are, how that sort of works from a procedural perspective.
You do have another question up front?
I think I can clarify the question that was asked. The selectmen can put anything on a warrant. They can put a cartoon on the warrant, they can put, you have to give everybody $10 at the town meeting. The one who determines whether or not it's a valid article is the Attorney General. So after it's voted on, the voted warrant that passed, those articles that passed, go to the Attorney General, and the Attorney General determines whether or not they're legal articles. And then the warrant is certified and said, okay. So you guys can put anything on a warrant you want, but the Attorney General has the final say on whether or not it's a valid article that's passed. Just a point of clarification.
Okay.
I have a question. So
Yes.
does that mean,
Then I come with land trust?
she is on the board of the land trust? She just joined. She
Yeah.
may have been serving earlier, but I know she just rejoined it, if that's the case.
Okay. All right. And then I guess a quick other question is, how many members on the Open Space Committee are currently also on the board of that zone?
We have one other member who is also a board member in the town.
Do you have any questions or comments regarding this answer? Okay. I will take a motion. There's no other discussion. Make that unanimous action. Next agenda item, motion to authorize the town manager to execute Upton Ridge General Agreement Transfer. Derek, if you could speak to this, please.
Sure. So, as we all know, Pulte Homes is building 139 55 units here on Hutchins. So, the agreement that's in front of you this evening just outlines the fact that once Pulte Homes has fully completed their project, they transfer their ownership rights to a condominium association. So that's one piece of this general agreement. The other piece is that Dennis Westgate, the director, and I, we had met with Pulte Homes, stay close to a year ago now, and we came to an agreement that Pulte Homes will pay the town of Upton, starting in year one, $12,700 to manage their lift stations. So we believe that it's prudent that we use town employees to manage these lift stations so that we know that they're being exercised on a regular basis, and if any other types of maintenance have to be conducted, we will do that. So they're going to pay us that $12,700 annually, and then that will increase based upon the consumer price index each year, starting on April 1st.
Okay. Very good. Maureen, do you have any questions?
No.
All right. Brett, do you have any questions?
What's a lift station?
It's the pump station, the water, boost the pump station to get the water to the top of the hill.
Pump station. Got it.
All right. So again, that's from Pulte, we have in front of the Pulte Homes, Upton Ridge Condominium Association. I will take a motion.
motion to authorize the town manager to execute the Upton Ridge General Agreement transfer.
Second.
Make that unanimous action?
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Through you to the manager, where does that, where does that money go? The wastewater account?
Yes, it'll go in water,
In the private
wastewater and house accounts.
All right.
Don't ask the question, they don't know the answer.
Article 5.4, we have an agenda item to accept donation of computer monitors. These are 55 desktop monitors. These are being donated by David Ross, courtesy of Warner Brothers, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So as we all know, David Ross sits on our Economic Development Committee and chairs the RFP Committee. He works for Warner Brothers, and I want to say it was about a year ago, they had donated the desks that lift, so folks can stand and work, they don't have to sit all day long. And this year, they had gone through an annual maintenance upgrade, and they donated 55 of the 23-inch monitors to the town.
Very good. So these are the full monitors, they got new ones that they?
That's right.
Okay. Very good.
Better than the monitors we have now.
Yes.
Much better. Good.
We have
Almost here, like 14-inch monitors.
Great. Well, that seems to be very good news. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I will take a motion.
I move to accept the donation of the computer monitors.
Second?
Okay, unanimous action? All right. Next, we have an agenda item, motion to declare various town equipment items surplus for auction. These are two items that are currently surplus items at the DPW garage. One of them is a Hustler mower, and one of them appears to be an old international truck.
I make a motion to declare the 2005 Hustler Super Z mower and the 2000 International surplus items.
Second.
Make that unanimous action. So folks, keep your eyes peeled, those will be coming up for auction. Available to be bid on. They did increase it. All right. I lost my paper, Jim. Let's go to town manager's report. Screen repopulates, thank you. We go to town manager's report, Derek?
Sure. So I have a couple announcements I want to make. So bear with me. So, as many of you know, Sergeant Bass is retiring. Her last day of work is going to be this Friday. She served the town of Upton for 34 years. And so we're going to have a small gathering at noontime at the police station. Chief Bradley will talk a little bit about Sergeant Bass's career, so anybody can attend, certainly open to the public. But I just want to thank Sergeant Bass publicly for all of her work that she's committed to, time away from family, to work, holidays, overnights, bad storms. So it's a long road for our public safety officials. She certainly has done a great job. And so, although I only worked with her for a couple of years, I heard great stories about her. So I want to wish her well in her retirement years.
Very good.
Staying in the police department, tomorrow morning I'm going to issue this press release. For more good news, the police department received a grant from the state for $232,000 to manage our regional PSAP system. So as many of you know, the town of Upton provides 911 dispatch services to the town of Hopedale. This grant, because we're a PSAP, so a regional PSAP, in years past was $87,000. So to the great work of Chief Bradley, he was able to work with the state and convince them that additional resources are necessary. So very happy to see the police department get $232,000. So this comes on the heels of the fire department grant that we talked about 2 years ago. So again, a lot of good work by the town is going up there and trying to find grant monies wherever available.
Just a quick comment, because that's absolutely wonderful news. I just I'm wondering if we should wait on some of these announcements for a time when people can actually hear or see a video of the meeting, because to make all these great announcements to the 10 people in this room probably isn't as valuable as making it
This will get replayed tomorrow, the next day,
with audio.
with audio.
Oh, there is audio
Yeah,
now.
it's portable camera, but it's got video and audio.
It does, okay.
I hope so, anyway.
You hope so.
I'm counting on it.
Okay.
So maybe we'll make them
Sorry.
again. Maybe we'll make them again. Actually, some of these announcements as far as the grants would be good discussion. I think. So just some typical operational announcements. I talked a lot about the roof at the fire station, the police station. So as you can recall, town meeting appropriated $410,000 for the police roof, $100,000 for the fire roof. So Kelly and I, we've been working really hard with our consultant, our engineering firm. We went out to bid. I talked about this in the past. We went to bid in May, didn't yield good results. We went back out to bid in August and yielded better results. And we sharpened our pencil this morning, and we believe we'll be saving the town approximately $150,000 by going through this process. It's taking a little bit longer than we thought, 6 months longer, but we think this was worth it. Very good. As far as the DPW, I just want to let folks know, because I know there's a lot of conversations out there, that we still plan on paving Russell Street and South Street. Right now, we're surveying Russell Street and Brook Street as well. So as you can recall, the Desjardins family has donated a sizable parcel of land in the Brook Street. And we've been trying to get the Brook Street survey in conjunction with their property so that we know where our lot lines are. So we're hoping that's going to get completed in the next 30 days or so. In Russell Street as well. If you go to Russell Street, I don't know where the sidewalk begins or the road begins or the driveways in this area. So those are getting surveyed. So I know folks in those neighborhoods have really asked us questions when the roads are going to get complete, but the surveying has began, and we're going to get those completed snowflakes. And then community center update, we talked a little bit about that in the past. Some preliminary results have demonstrated that looking at that parcel of land over at the VFW parking lot area owned by the town, we can fit a 14,000 square foot building and still have approximately 40 parking spaces. So still a lot more work to get completed prior to town meeting, but some preliminary results show some positive traction in that direction. And then the last thing I just wanted to bring up on behalf of the Board of Assessors, that so we have town meeting on November 5th, and we have actually regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting, which we already posted for a public hearing on November 19th. The Board of Assessors has asked the Board of Selectmen to hold a tax classification hearing on November 12th. So this will give them plenty of time so that they can go ahead and submit all the information to the DOI. So that's a request for you to consider for November 12th. But we want to schedule that now, or know that now, so that we can post that in the newspaper. So this is a public hearing, so post that well in advance.
So they suggesting moving the meeting, the regularly scheduled meeting up a week, basically?
No, we have both.
So keep
Yeah,
that.
because for our business, we already have a public hearing scheduled for November 19th. And so for the Board of Assessors needs, we would have to post within this week and within this week for the November 12th public hearing, tax classification.
Okay. I guess we can discuss that. Does anybody have any issues with making that date work? Everybody in town? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Sounds like we're in agreement. That should be fine.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Great. All right. Is there anything else?
That's it.
All right. Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, going back now to Article 5.6, motion to approve personnel policy and procedure manual. some updated definitions. It was, I think about a year and a half ago, we updated this manual, but need a little tweaking. So I think I've had a chance to read through that. Any comments? Any questions? Okay. If that's the case, I will take a motion.
I move that we approve, I make a motion that we approve the personnel committee policy and procedure.
Second?
Make that unanimous action. Okay. Agenda item 5.7, motion to approve plowing of private ways. For the winter of 2019-2020. This is pretty straightforward year to year. We have some roadways in town that are not approved roadways. Dennis isn't here to speak to it, but typically if the roads are brought up to a particular standard, the town goes ahead and plows and services those roads over the winter months. So, is there any questions or comments?
Now, basically for public safety.
Yeah, that's true. Paul, you want to tell everyone where Sheffield Road is? It always seems to be.
You don't know?
Of course I do.
There's no need.
No need, we all got that. All right, I will take a motion.
I support the DPW director's recommendation and move that we approve the private ways plowing plan submitted by the director.
One second.
Make that unanimous action? All right, very good. Agenda item 6.0 is recognition. Does anybody have anything under recognition?
Other than echoing, Derek's words about Sergeant Boss, I think if we can invite people to be there Friday at noon, that'll be a great showing. Really did a lot for the community. I've only known her a few years, but she's always been, wonderful and helpful, and obviously has a lifetime of dedicated work for the community. So that's great. Very much appreciated.
Yeah, it's an impressive milestone. 34 years, I think it was. Nice. Yeah, that's very impressive. And one other thing I'd like to add, something separate, to the Cultural Council. They did an excellent job on the Rhythm and Blue concert that was held downstairs, in what we call the gym. The sound was fantastic. It was well attended, and it was no cost to the taxpayers. So very well done. So I'd like to give a call out to the Cultural Council for that. Very good job.
And I'd like to say in,
I think we have a member of the
on behalf of the
Cultural
Cultural Council, Lynn Happy, I just want to thank the selectmen and the executive assistant, Sandy, the town manager, for all our assistance with the event. We really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see. Do we have anything under new business or look ahead topics? Nothing? Yeah, all right. Moving along quickly. Public comment. Last item we have. Marshall, could you please come forward? It's hard to hear you, so.
You may want to go stand a foot or two in front of the camera. Sorry.
Marcia Kreslov, 10 Whitney Lane. The Historic Commission put out a new exhibit for hats specifically, and I haven't been up to see their exhibit in ages, and I went and I brought a friend, and we really enjoyed it. The people were fabulous, the exhibit was fabulous, and I just wanted to encourage everyone to go see it because I haven't seen the permanent exhibit in years, and it was just well worth the time. It was great.
Why don't you remind everybody where that is?
It's about the library.
Great.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks.
And I'd like to say on behalf of the Historical Society, I appreciate that shout.
Very good.
Love it. Feel the love.
Yeah, all things up there.
right, let's get it.
And actually, so I do know that last meeting, the sound was a problem with the sound. My name's Bill Taylor, and I'm with the Historical Society. And last time I took the time to thank C. McKenney and Lisa Brochu for all the work they've done over the years for the the Heritage Day. And because the sound got lost, I wanted to do it one more time when there was sound. They've done a wonderful job, and this was their last year, and they deserve a great deal of thanks for all they've done for the society and for the town.
Wonderful.
Very good.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, finally had good weather, and that was well attended as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great to see all that activity.
Yeah. All right. Any other public comment? Seeing nothing else on the agenda, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.